Hello, I am Melissa Bondi, and this is Ann Arbor Inclusive, the show that explores topics of interest to community members with abilities of every level, focusing on awareness and education. And this goes hand in hand with my guest today. I'm excited to bring on, from the Disability Network Washtenaw Monroe in Livingston, Alex Gossage, who is the Executive Director, and Christina Johnson, Community Program Manager. Their mission is to empower the lives of people with disabilities and advocate for a more inclusive community for all. Welcome, both of you, to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. Christina, we've talked before. A lot of changes happened this year with the Disability Network. Alex, welcome. So basically, let's get into it. Let's begin with, tell us about the organization. It seems fairly large. There's a lot of different facets to it. But just tell us about the organization in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were founded in 1976. We were the 4th Center for Independent Living founded in the country. And for us, for people with disabilities, independent living is about our rights, and it was a rights movement for us. And so to that end, Centers for Independent Living do a lot of focusing around advocacy, both with individuals and in the community, but we also provide a variety of different services. We're working on connecting individuals with resources, connecting individuals with disabilities to other individuals with disabilities through peer support programs, through recreation, and a whole variety of different things. We do skill building, both for youth and adults. A lot of that is framed around employment, but it also can be as simple as how to schedule out your week and figure out how to get all the things done that you need to get done. So, you know, we do a whole wide variety of different things. The advocacy piece is important. For us, we do a lot of work around transition, so transitioning individuals who are in nursing facilities back into the community. You know, we're strong advocates of community living and individuals with disabilities being as integrated as anybody else is into our communities. So to that end, you know, that's where that independent living piece comes from. But we've also seen that over, you know, almost 50 years now, independent living has meant other things to other people. And so, for example, a lot of places where individuals actually live now are called independent living facilities. So we get calls all the time of folks asking us if we have apartments or what have you to rent, and that's not something that we do. So that was one of the reasons why we did end up changing our name from Ann Arbor Center for Independent Living to Disability Network. That was a small piece of it, but I think clarifying who we are was really important to us. A second piece was making sure that everybody understood. We have, for many years now, served Washtenaw, Monroe, and Livingston counties. So that's been our service area for a number of years, but because Ann Arbor was highlighted, a lot of folks didn't realize that. And I think it also was a turnoff for folks in other communities who aren't affiliated with Ann Arbor, who aren't in the area. And so that was another big reason for our change. And then I think lastly, for us, it's really important to talk about disability. Disability is not something that's seen by a negative of anybody. It's just a part of everyday life. And we wanted to make sure that that piece was highlighted in our name. So that was kind of along the lines of that switch.
Okay. How long do you think that came? Like, how long do you think it took to change? Brainstorming that, because it makes sense now that you're saying the reason why. How long do you think it took, and what was the thing that pushed to have it done?
Yeah, so there are actually 15 centers for independent living here in Michigan.
Okay.
And probably about 10 years ago, the Centers for Independent Living started to make more of a concerted effort here in Michigan to have similar names, similar branding.
Yeah.
And there was a switch over to Disability Network. So you have Disability Network Eastern Michigan, or you have Disability Network Lakeshore over in Holland. And you know, for a lot of those folks, coming up with the name was very simple because they were the southwest part of Michigan, or they were the northern part of Michigan.
Okay.
For us, it was much more of a challenge. We're not exactly southeast Michigan, so we didn't really want to take that on. You know, we recognize that calling out all 3 of the counties that we serve can be a bit cumbersome. So I know there was reluctance to go to that right away. And then that historical piece for a lot of folks.
Okay.
You know, we have been around as long as we have. We were the first CIL here in Michigan. We're still a CIL. And so that really, I think, put up a lot of barriers for a number of years.
Sure.
But I think, as we were coming back out of COVID, as we were kind of reemerging back into the community, it seemed like a good time to revisit that piece.
Sure.
And I think we had, more so than in the past, a lot of support from the community, the board, and our team at the CIL to really go looking at changing that name and figuring out what it was. It took us several months. I mean, we ran community surveys, we had focus groups, surveys amongst our staff, our board, donors had opportunities to provide input. So it was a really important thing. We tried to be inclusive as possible.
Yeah.
And but we felt at the end of the day it was really important to go ahead and make that change.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And the name itself sounds like you're very busy. You sound very busy. You must have a very busy staff. Tell us a little bit about the staff and the services that you provide. I know we can find it all on the website because I was on it yesterday. But tell me about some of the services. There's painting. Is there
all sorts of good stuff?
Exercise. I mean, I feel like it was like endless, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Not only that, but you could come to your center, right, and as well as do things still virtually or at home.
Yeah, for the most part, a lot of our programming is still virtual, hybrid. We're really trying to bring back the in-person things going on in the office. In both our Ann Arbor and our Monroe location, we have 2 physical offices. We do have an adaptable fitness gym in the Ann Arbor office, which gets a lot of use. So that is something folks can come in and use. I believe it's by appointment now.
Okay.
But you can certainly get more information on our website, dnwml.org, about that. We do have a pretty robust recreation program in regards to arts. Claire Moore is our art specialist, and she does a wonderful job with that. So I know she does do a hybrid schedule there.
Okay.
We have a movie club. We have a new thing we're doing is more youth-centered. So we just had a Halloween trunk or treat and a dance. And then in February coming up, we have a youth Valentine's Day dance we're going to do. We're really excited about that. These are our first kind of steps back into youth programming in the center.
Okay.
And then we have a harvest luncheon coming up in November.
Okay.
So we certainly want to encourage folks to check out our calendar of events that'll give you all sorts of good information.
I saw the calendar and I was like, this is so easy to read. I mean, you weren't searching. It was calendar online. These are the events. It was literally
Thank you, because it's one of our pride points of the website.
I wish every organization had a calendar as consistent and concise as that.
I will take that back to the team and let them know.
It was very easy to read, and it was you weren't searching for anything, so that was good. Let me ask, so you have a gym, an adaptive gym. Would I have to pay? Do people have to pay to use this? Or how do you, are you a membership? Is it, hi, Christina, I'm interested, I've got this disability. Give me the rundown of how that would work.
Gym's free. Most things at the center are Disability Network. I call it the center, but that's the building. Are free. I do host a cooking class on Thursdays. We do have a small ingredient fee just because if the class gets large, it's, but almost everything outside of that is.
I would say typically 99% of our services and activities are free. We receive grant funding from the state, grant funding from the federal government to be centers for independent living. And so with that comes all of the things that we do, whether it's providing an activity or providing direct one-on-one services and supports, or helping folks with goal setting. All of that is free to the community, as we are a community. We are our community's organization.
Sure. Well, what about when it comes to something along the lines of physical therapy? Is that something that someone would call and get probably a resource, right? You're obviously a resource, but is there anything that if someone was looking, where do I begin? And, they may have some type of doctor's, referral, or maybe they don't. Is there any type of physical therapy that would be done at your centers?
So we don't currently have anybody doing physical therapy. It's really more focused around the recreational therapy piece. I will say, though, that individuals can call us, or they can look at our website, www.dnwml.org. They can also email us through our website at our info email and ask questions and look for resources related to physical therapy. In addition, and we have done this in the past, I don't believe we have anybody working right now, but we have offered our gym space up as a place where an individual could meet a physical therapist or could meet a trainer if they're needing additional assistance in the gym space.
Okay, so they could, okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, that's very important.
And we've also partnered quite a bit with Michigan Adaptive Sports, which is University of Michigan's sports programs, where they have a lot of different things going on. Much of it is focused, I think, on the students, but there's a great deal that's intended to be available to the community as well. And so they're really the ones that have been responsible for supporting us and getting our gym upgraded in the last couple of years and getting a lot of new equipment in. And that's just been a really exciting partnership and a great way to connect folks with recreation opportunities.
Sure.
They're few and far between for people with disabilities, and so finding the spaces, finding the equipment are two of the things our partnership has allowed people to be able to do more easily.
Okay, Alex, so tell us a little bit more. I'm interested to learn more about the three communities and how they differ in the needs and the folks that would contact or be a part of, or a member, I shouldn't say member, but you know, community member.
Yeah, so I can definitely break down a little bit about each of our counties. You know, Christina can talk a bit more about Monroe, and I can cover the other two for sure. But each county is very different, not only in terms of the folks who live there, but also just in the resources that are available to the community.
Okay.
Washtenaw, in a lot of ways, is a large established county. Ann Arbor anchors that as one of the larger cities here in Michigan, and there's an abundance of resources, not only for people with disabilities, but for anybody in our communities. And while that not necessarily means that we're fixing problems completely or solving problems completely, it does mean that there are oftentimes things available to folks in our county here in Washtenaw that aren't available down in Monroe, that are not available down in Livingston or up in Livingston. Livingston is more of I guess people describe it as a bedroom community a lot of times. A lot of folks live there, but they also work outside of the county. They work in Ingham, or they go to Washtenaw or Oakland, Macomb, those kinds of things. So for many years, it has been very rural. It still is very rural in a lot of places.
Sure.
But it also has been growing quite a bit, especially if you're looking at some of those Howell areas, Brighton area, those kinds of things. With Monroe, just like Western Washtenaw and Livingston, it is very rural. And I think there are some communities that are just much, much smaller. Monroe is a much smaller community, still very much rural in a lot of ways. And so the resources just end up looking different in different places.
Okay.
I will say, as far as the needs go, though, we see a lot of the same needs for people with disabilities in every county and every part of our state, really.
Okay.
Employment is always a piece that's important for a lot of folks with disabilities who are looking for work. Housing, affordable, accessible housing, is hard to come by anywhere in our state. It's definitely a bigger issue here in Washtenaw County, where we know that we have a lot of affordability issues, but really it's an issue in all three of our spaces. And then from there, transportation is also a huge issue that folks face. And so there really are those kind of same things, and then different pieces for different areas. And I'll let Christina talk a little bit about Monroe.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
A lot of the same barriers we would say across Monroe. Transportation, public transportation, there's quite a barrier sometimes.
Sure.
We do have a physical office in Monroe, and it's quite big and lovely. We're very lucky in that capacity.
Okay.
We don't have an accessible gym there, unfortunately. But the nice thing about servicing the three counties is if you are able to travel, anyone from our three counties can come to the Ann Arbor location and use our facilities. And, you know, vice versa if you wanted to go to Monroe and check out our really cute office. But we do just about the same things, other than we don't have as big of a space. So we don't have a gym, but we do have a computer lab. And in Monroe, we do have a food pantry that we have to help support community members in that capacity. And we're trying to build the recreation in Monroe as well. Claire does come down and do art classes out in the community. That just started, so we're trying to get that going too.
And I would imagine, I would imagine you work pretty closely here, and I don't know if you mentioned with there's a lot of transportation opportunity here in Washtenaw, right? At least in Ann Arbor. with the AATA and just being able to have public transit, and those other communities don't. Not many other communities have that. So is that something that people tend to reach out for assistance with, even though we have that here in Ann Arbor?
Well, so we have it here in Ann Arbor, but then it gets a little bit tricky once you get outside of Ann Arbor and parts of Ypsilanti. We do have People's Express in the area. We do have the Wave here in Washtenaw as well. But again, those all in a lot of ways function very separately. And so if you're trying to get to Chelsea or Manchester from Ann Arbor, it's a much more challenging thing. When we look at Livingston County, they do have a smaller public service that'll take folks with disabilities from one place to another, and you can schedule a ride sometimes or kind of use a circuit that they use. But again, that's not getting you throughout the county, much less to the next county or something of that nature. And then Monroe, it's kind of the same way, I guess. I mean, there is public transit, there are the buses and those kinds of things.
But it's the city proper.
Right.
In the city, right? Within.
But both of our locations are on the bus path, so you can
route,
take the bus to the Monroe office from Monroe City, or the Ann Arbor office is right on the bus route as well.
What would you say is the biggest, the call, the inquiry that you receive the most for assistance from community members? What would be like the number one, like I am looking for, I need help with, I like assistance? What would be something that you get the most calls about?
I think it's navigating Social Security benefits.
Sure.
And we are lucky in that our organization has 3 full benefits planners, which are people who have been trained through Cornell to understand Social Security benefits and be able to then relay that back to folks.
That's good, yeah.
And we just, the conference I mentioned earlier, that's what we went to, is to learn more about benefits for Michigan specifically, and what that's going to look like going forward. So luckily, we do have a pretty robust benefits staff. So
that's great.
We're happy to support folks that way.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I think what you guys do is amazing. And if not anything, one of the best resources for those people with abilities and disabilities. Let me ask, before we wrap up though, I want to know, what's the best thing about working here? Alex, you've been here how long?
I've been here since 2006. I actually started as an AmeriCorps Vista in 2004. So it's been a long time. It's been my entire career. And for me, I'm a person who was born with a disability. I have spina bifida, and I think it really wasn't until I came to the center that I was, or Disability Network now, that I was really able to embrace the disability community, to see the disability community. And that, I think, is probably, for me, the most important part about working here, is being able to be of that community, to be in that community, to support folks, and really to educate and just, further our cause, further inclusion throughout all of our communities.
Yeah, okay. What about you, Christina? Why do you love working here and doing what you do?
For me, it's getting to meet all sorts of different people and watch them along their journey, kind of from start to end, and come into being self-advocates. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to help people do, is live their life the way they want to.
Right.
And so it's really exciting when you get to see that happen.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, is there anything else we may not have touched on that you might want to mention?
Before we get, I know we have something we'd like to present to you, but I did want to mention just, we do a lot of education in the community and awareness making. So we've worked with Ann Arbor Public Schools for a number of years, bringing disability awareness to the 4th grade classrooms. And we also do that work with a lot of other agencies in our community as well. So if folks are interested in, having their organizations go through some sort of disability education program, we're more than happy to support folks in sitting down, having those conversations, figuring out what that looks like for people, so that they can have more people with disabilities working in their organization, or they can do a better job of serving people with disabilities in their office. So I think that was just an important piece I wanted to make sure we got in.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said something. What did you bring today, Christina?
And then we brought you one of these fancy orange shirts.
With your new logo.
With our new logo and our new name. And then the really nice part is the back of it has our mission statement.
Ah, of course.
So we're happy to share.
Yeah, and I noticed you use And that was a big thing with our show name. The show has been on for 8 years. When we were coming up with the title, we did not want to use disability. We brainstormed, and it was ability inclusive, and I think inclusive is the key word there, with everything, right? And I say it just to my 7-year-old, like, you want to be inclusive. You don't want to exclude anyone, and that goes on every level of life. But I love that you have.
And that's for you. You want to pass that over?
Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing this today. This is great.
I brought one for Tim also.
And for Tim, okay. Okay, well, thank you guys both so much for joining us. I enjoy learning more about the Disability Network from the Executive Director, of course, and Christina. Thank you again for coming on. It was nice seeing you again.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us again.
You're very welcome. And to find out more on the Disability Network, visit dnwml.org or on social media on Facebook/Disability Network WML. And to find out more on CTN, visit a2gov.org/CTN for more programs and our services. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. And follow us on social media at #CTN Ann Arbor. Thanks for watching.